Welcome everybody, my name is Ketchup, joined by Flea, and it's time for some B-Stream action, but it doesn't lessen the quality of the games. I tell you what, cha1n versus dramiS. We are actually loading in as we speak, and if you've watched the B-Stream already, you know we keep this bit minimal. We're going into Awoken as our first map, Athena versus Doomslayer, and these are two players where now everything's on the line, Flea.
Indeed, we are already in the lower brackets. Both of these has lost one map each, or one matchup each, right? We've got dramiS who lost to Razy, and then we've got cha1n who lost to Base. So this is their final shot at staying in the tournament. Now, last time they played, dramiS actually cleaned cha1n 3-0. And I'm not using that term lightly. It actually was a very one-sided game, even within the scores for each map as well. So let's see if cha1n learned anything from that. He did talk about getting in better shape for the finals and really putting in the grind after a relatively lackluster stage for him. So let's see if he can put his money where his mouth is at when he goes up against dramiS.
Well, looks like this warm-up is coming to a close. We'll be jumping into things in about 10 seconds, folks, because now these two players do or die. You're in the lower bracket. You lose this series, you're out of the tournament. And even though it feels like we've only just begun day one, there have been some players already eliminated from this bracket. As now we start things off, dramiS' point of view, it will be the Doomslayer for him, which brings with it easy mobility. But look, when it comes to mobility, no one does it better than Athena on most maps.
She's just so damn fast, Ketchup. Horizontal mobility, she can get extreme speed boosts. They go vertically, but that won't help much when there's an angry Doomslayer berserking all over you. Not something you see very often at the highest level of plays. The active ability being used aggressively by the Doomslayer, but that is exactly how dramiS decides to open this match.
And your execution on it needs to be flawless. If you miss that opening rail in Berserk, you're just not going to have the damage to make up for it. In this case, the dramiS confidence in the play, however, forced to retreat now as there's big damage, and the chase down by cha1n brings us into 1-1. Now, dramiS, there could have been worse spawns. He's likely going to have to concede this mega, but he gets himself a light armor. He has the rail, and we know that the rail in the hand of dramiS can be a lethal weapon. Unfortunately for him, oh no, unfortunately for cha1n, dramiS sending cha1n into the abyss.
That was just so patient. dramiS just waited for him, Ketchup. He was like, okay, you're zipping towards me. I'm just gonna body block you with a super shotgun in hand, and you are going to pay the price for your transgression.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a fair bit.
Intentional rocket jump. Totally intentional.
Yeah, I'm sure of it.
Just what the Doomslayer does. He's too angry to have full HP.
Indeed. Now dramiS takes away Mega. Oh, that's a juicy rocket onto the heavy as well. Minimal delay between the items though, so it's going to be difficult for either player to establish full control. Unless they get the kill late enough in this cycle that their opponent can't meaningfully challenge, but good damage being exchanged so far. Both players doing a hell of a lot.
Strong positions by dramiS and some nice tri-bolts. That cheeky Doomslayer exclusive maneuver right there. That double jump just to create an extra angle allows him to land the rail that he's after to get the next frag. And right now, 3-1. We've only just started this map really, and dramiS working on an impressive lead. That rail was certainly a fantastic way for cha1n to start. And this is that element of Athena where she can be anywhere she wants. And it's that layer of unpredictability. I mean, how are you prepared for a push like that, Flea?
There's very little you can do about that. It's just so explosive, so fast. And cha1n, he's widely considered to be one of the better Athena players in all of the Americas. Rafa is another player who can make a claim to that title.
Totally.
But cha1n has been doing wonders with this champion. And this is a very good map to play her on as well. Maybe not as good as, say, Blood Covenant, but still, there's so many neat little tricks and boosts that you can do with her. You just have to be careful about your low starting stack.
Oh, they trade rail for rail, but that's only going to favor dramiS, who is sitting right next to the Mega. Because even if cha1n took that heavy into the rail, would have gone down, yes, would have denied the item, but only one person was going to get the frag in that situation, of which another rail comes out and dramiS looking to secure another one. Unfortunately, not able to get the rail before cha1n picks up one of his own, so there is now going to be a little bit of a more difficult ranged battle taking place. However, dramiS keeping a hold of this high ground, listening out for where cha1n could be. And in this case, keeping the cycle of the items, pushing out to get more damage. That play for dramiS was so good.
It was a lot of damage, an excellent combo kill. And cha1n is struggling. Yes, he's got a lot of mobility, yes, he's got a lot of speed, but dramiS really has the same thing. And he doesn't have to wait on a cooldown to make good use of that double jump around the center area of the map. He can instantly get there from rockets, can jump up there from LG, can get there from Mega, doesn't have to take any sort of roundabout ways to get to that powerful center area that allows you to control and dictate the flow of the game. And dramiS has been doing that perfectly.
And it is going to be very good for the Slayer that he has that readily available mobility. The reality is, you don't see the Berserk much in competitive play. I mean, in any kind of duel setting, let alone competitive. And the reason for that is because you're just so vulnerable. Right? As you're activating it, it needs to be an all-in. And in a lot of cases, you don't want to go all-in. But also, by not using Berserk, you're opening up the hourglasses as a free pickup for your opponent. Someone like Athena, never going to have to worry about being out. But wait a minute, dramiS. I kind of like this play, actually. Using the Berserk, maybe not to go all that way out, because that could have gone a hell of a lot worse. It's good for him that he was able to survive. But taking that instant burst of speed to push out, knowing that cha1n's not going to be near Mega, that was kind of interesting to me.
Whoa, okay.
Ow.
The rail, just as he passed through the teleporter, gave him a little bit of a strange momentum coming out of it. Nearly jumped off. I think he's lucky he had the Doomslayer to double jump himself to safety. But he isn't in the clear just yet as cha1n chains together a fair few rails and should be able to secure himself Mega as well. And now it's dramiS who's on the back foot. Oh, I like this. cha1n leaving up the Mega, wanting to first get some more damage done. Knowing that dramiS was probably just listening out to get an idea of the item timing, and so he just pushed in aggressively. Really clever play. If he can continue doing that, he's got a good shot at tying the game up still.
That one little health bubble kept him alive, and the rocket does good damage, but not enough to save his skin. cha1n getting at least one frag on the board here, but there's more work to be done. Plenty of opportunities to do so, though, as he's currently in position on Mega. dramiS sitting around on heavy side. But there's such a divide between these two items right now that dramiS has to kind of bide his time a little bit. Any kind of extra range he can work with here, he'll greatly appreciate. But this is that volatile nature. This champion can just fly across the screen. And dramiS, you've always got to be ready. However, opening rail into heavy, that's going to force the retreat. Gets another one. Fantastic shot.
Surprising misses by cha1n there. He was hitting 55% rail, but now he just missed 5 rail shots in a row, and that led to his demise catch-up. Might have gotten so confident in his own railgun ability after doing such a good job throughout this entire map that he put himself too far out there, banked on those shots landing a little too much. And in doing so, he actually gave away a free heavy and put himself in a dangerous position, which dramiS punished expertly. And now dramiS has full control. And cha1n once again has to be a little careful and collect some more weapons before he can really contest.
I love that rail shot near LG right before he got that frag. He already had that angle set up towards light armor even before cha1n went there, because it was such a read. I'm going to hit you, you're going to try and get armor. Job's a good one. But now, not a lot of Awoken left to go, and dramiS with a sizable lead both in frags and stack, especially with a rocket like that hitting its mark the way it did, setting up for more rail shots. cha1n peeks his head out, and by all means, this should be yet another. There's a few light pickups here, but it's not going to be enough to save him. Mega's on the next play, but cha1n, it's just such a risk to even be around. I get that he definitely wants to stop dramiS from taking it for free, and he has actually been able to steal it away. Good decision making, and dramiS actually not able to get the damage either.
That was a really good play by cha1n. Just double backing there, although I don't think it was entirely intentional. I believe he messed up the second zip a little bit, going around the corner, so he just decided to walk back around and caught dramiS off guard with a nice burst of LG as he was trying to jump across, and that actually allowed cha1n to just get away with the Mega for free, and now dramiS isn't landing the rocket.
Oh, no! Come on!
So messy, so sloppy, and cha1n brought his opponent down to 2 points of health, but then they flew in opposite directions. and the Canadian just couldn't get his bearings fast enough.
That was a cheeky little rocket there from dramiS as well, going in with the Berserk and kind of messing with cha1n's timing up close. So all of a sudden, here comes dramiS. He's point blank. I want to go for a rocket, but now the Berserk's just come to an end. So in between shots, he gets some damage of his own. Oh, cha1n, nothing works. The Athena has just hit this immovable object. The Doomslayer, that rail so nearly would have resulted in a ring out. This will be a done deal for map 1. cha1n has to kind of just sit here for the 60 seconds and think, right, up next, what do we do? Because this did not work. More damage from dramiS, and these will just be bonus frags at this point. Another frag just for good measure to break the 10. But dramiS feeling good about map 1, no doubt.
I think this is a good moment to take a look at the picks and bans for the second map, because we didn't get to take a look at those just yet. So map 1 was a woken. Map 2 is going to be Veil of Nap, and we are going to see it will be dramiS playing the Death Knight, and cha1n is going to be running the range. So pretty standard picks of Veil, a match that we've seen earlier as well. Very standard, very meta in my opinion.
GG's are going to roll out for good reason. Berserk activated just because, you know, play a little bit of that E1M1. We always prefer it and love it. But that was the dramiS show for me. That was just a wonderful showing of the Doomslayer being used to just nullify that Athena movement. You know, when you look at Athena, we always talk about movement, especially behind the wheel. You got someone like cha1n, very good at applying that. But on a map like Awoken, the way dramiS was playing it was, oh, you want to go somewhere on the map? For the most part, I can go there too. It doesn't cost me anything either. Yeah. So you kind of take the fact that he has that slightly larger stack. More importantly, though, dramiS was hitting some absolutely banging shots, like some phenomenal rails, which was just causing cha1n so much grief, because you think you're escaping, and then just in that final little moment, here comes a rail out of nowhere, and then you're instantly behind.
cha1n still did a really good job at keeping us relatively close in terms of damage output, but if you just look at the item pickups, dramiS had twice as many majors as his opponents did, and that is a very strange sight when you consider how much more mobile cha1n was. And that speaks to what you just said, Ketchup, that dramiS did an excellent job at countering and nullifying a lot of those movement bonuses that cha1n had to work with, just by being so present around the key areas of the map by using the Doomslayer, and also having some excellent reads on how cha1n was going to approach the situations, right? That one play at Heavy where he got the kill with those 2 super shotgun ball shots, that really stood out to me. That was dramiS just so confidently holding his ground, saying, you're going to zip right at me, I'm ready with the super shoddy, and you're gonna pay for it. So really clever plays. cha1n is struggling right now, that much is clear.
It's such a bizarre turn of events in terms of just how different it is from previous results. A couple of years ago, for example, you would have been looking at this and thinking, right, cha1n's the one. A year ago, maybe as well, cha1n was riding tons of momentum. dramiS having a relatively kind of impressive beginning in Pro League, very quickly started to almost seem like it plateaued. And then here we are, you know, almost 2 years later. dramiS is one of the main players that people are really keeping a keen eye on in the Americas, and it's for good reason. Just again, to refresh everyone's memory, this guy had a pretty significant hand injury that put him out of action for the majority of the stage, and he came back at the end and had to play a bunch of his matches in bulk, having obviously not been able to practice. The fact that he's been able to kind of return to form, but actually get, especially recently, better results than he's had in the past year even, is very impressive in its own right. And he's going up against cha1n, someone who, again, you look at this matchup, you'd think cha1n would just have it in the bag. Times have changed, and so has dramiS.
Indeed he has. This is a very confident, driven, and committed version of dramiS that we've got on our hands. He's showing that in the first map. Now, granted, earlier he did lose to ra1z, but ra1z is ra1z, right? He is one of the best players in the entire world, managed to secure himself a spot in the grand finals repeatedly. So dramiS isn't going to let that get him down too much. It's just going to completely reset and move ahead into the lower bracket, where he's now on the cusp of taking down cha1n and moving ahead.
Our warm-up's coming to a close for another time here, and this could be the end of the road for cha1n if dramiS is able to secure another map win here for a 2-0. dramiS taking that first map in clear fashion, especially by the end. The Death Knight going to him, and the immediate orb that works wonders for cha1n.
Good start for the Canadian. We're seeing a lot of quick opening frags, I feel like, in these matches. Very high aggressive, high octane plays from almost all of the players involved. And I like seeing that on cha1n's end, right? It's good that he's not coming into this on like, okay, this is my last, lifeline in the tournament. I've got to take this unsure, careful, meek playstyle almost. No, cha1n is just as confident as he should be, taking the fight straight to his opponents.
Circumstances are severe here, but that doesn't mean you have to change your game plan, and sticking to the plan is so hard to do in tournaments, no matter what the game is. So much mental acrobatics that will be taking place, right? There's just so much to juggle. And in this case, the opening play made by dramiS, a little bit of bonus damage on the tri-bolt, currently in a better position for that heavy, and I think he wants to get a little bit more. Can't shut down the mega, but can he at least take this heavy? cha1n getting some damage, but misses the rail. That's huge. As now dramiS, this is the green light to go ahead and push.
I think cha1n got a little lucky right there. The dramiS managed to get 2 out of the 3 tri-bolts against that little ledge instead of over it, because he probably would have died otherwise. Now dramiS is going to continue applying the pressure. He knew that cha1n had almost nothing to work with in terms of stack. He doesn't want to give him any more opportunities than necessary. He's gonna chase him down below at the railgun area. But he does have to give up the heavy, and that is going to work wonders for cha1n.
It's exactly the get out he needed. In this case, able to bide his time, wait for dramiS to be around mega, and just swoop in and take away that heavy. Brings us into a rather even-Steven situation. Opening rail misses, so we're going to continue that situation right now. But this is what we're always looking at. Abilities are locked and loaded. cha1n, though, the preemptive rocket in the wrong place, gives away a rail shot for dramiS, clean as a whistle.
We've seen essentially 0 consistent control yet. cha1n has slightly more items picked up than his opponent, but no one really is just chaining them together, right? dramiS gets himself in the lead. Problem is that there's still a significant amount of time left, over 10 seconds before the major items spawn. If cha1n had chosen to be just hyper-aggressive with the railgun and the heavy machine gun, could have forced out something right off the bat, but instead neither player wants to put themselves at too much of a risk. So they just
being
retreat
kind of
to their
cheeky
items.
after that frag too, kind of sitting in a kind of backing up a couple of times to give himself a better chance to get the spawn he wanted, just so he can kind of soak up the remaining items on this part of the map. And in this case now 2-1 in the lead. Enough of a delay between the 2 items on Veil that you can definitely make something happen on both of them. This ain't that kind of map where 5 seconds makes a big difference. On Veil, not really, as the aggressive rail opening, and now the escape. Oh god, cha1n, he was able to fall in with the orb, but it didn't really do anything for him.
He's really still just in the same position, although dramiS a little hesitant right here. He had a few very short angles, but didn't capitalize off of them. He was hoping to get a better shot at a later time, increase that accuracy, but cha1n was very quick on his feet, got out of the room in time. So it's still just a 1 frag lead for dramiS, but this is looking dangerous though, Ketchup, because for the first time there is just a significant delay between the items, right? 12 seconds between mega and heavy. dramiS has picked up both of them in the previous rotation, and cha1n is so early. cha1n is 7 seconds early before the item spawns. This is a huge opportunity for dramiS. Clearly, cha1n had no clue as to when exactly the mega would reappear, and dramiS just took huge advantage of that.
A horrendous position to get caught in, because that kind of mistake, how catastrophic it could be, is now 4.5 minutes already down here. dramiS sitting in a comfortable lead. They may be speaking too soon as this next fight breaks out, but with the way things are currently going, that is not the kind of mistime you want to have here. They both fight it up close. cha1n is able to out LG. And there's definitely worse times to get a frag, as he's able to get a little bit of armor, he's able to get the mega at the same time. dramiS stuck down here with just a rail. This is miserable.
Takes a bad rocket, but at least he manages to get out. I think if cha1n had just jumped on the stairs and tried to cut him off, he probably would have been able to secure the frag there. Actually somewhat surprised that he didn't, given that dramiS only had the railgun to work with. I guess the cha1n is just trying to play this extremely safely now. And as I say that, he just rocket jumps and orbs onto the item. A little bit of an inconsistency in how cha1n is approaching this. Very passive on the one hand, when he has a very easy frag kind of waiting for him stuck in a corner, and then at other times just hyper aggressive, just going in with the rocket jump for the item.
Speaking of aggressive, pushing up that bounce pad and able to land the rail, they trade it back, but there's another rocket, 2 of them. And this is dramiS in big trouble. cha1n looking like he should be able to take the lead off this, and he will, but what does he get from it next? Now, a chance to maybe lick those wounds and get a few extra items to bring himself back to a normal stack, if anything. Mega on his hand, and there will be a light up there to take 2. Oh, doesn't get much. Oh, he teleports himself into the flames. He's on fire. Oh, but the LG is so good.
The patience is paying off for cha1n. Being very careful as to not overextend. He knows that he's got that orb at the ready. That's his lifeline, his escape route when he finds himself in a bad spot. Or when he eventually does get out positioned like he just did in terms of the heavy, he can easily use that orb just to steal away the item still. Yes, he took a significant amount of flame damage, but it secured him yet another frag. The only downside is that he now has been relegated to that bottom area of the map and has to play a very disciplined and careful game. His
dramiS is
opponent
going to use
stacked.
this chance. He really is going to use this chance to push forward now, Flea.
Yeah, here he goes. Can he find the damage though? Not really. And just like I said, cha1n using that orb to great effect, firing at the doors to open them so he gets a clean line of sight to orb straight out of the room, and even gets away with picking up the Mega.
And in this case, some tri-bolt damage makes things a little bit better for dramiS too. There's plenty of time to get the 2 frags that he needs. The rocket jump, but cha1n was ready for it. And dramiS got very little out of that exchange. No tri-bolt damage here though from dramiS. Bit unusual almost to get no splash there. We're so close.
It's definitely expecting that to do at least something. Now dramiS has to take this easy, right? He still has some time left, and cha1n messes it up. Nice rockets. We've seen so many mid-airs by both of these players. This has been obscene catch-up, but that engagement most definitely favors the Canadian, and cha1n is now 3 frags in the lead with 2 minutes left on the clock. This is starting to look a little dire for dramiS.
dramiS has no choice but to be aggressive now because time is no longer on his side. He can afford for the next few seconds maybe to be careful here because the explosive comeback nature. No, that miss rail is going to be all she wrote, no doubt.
Yeah.
As cha1n is able to pick up, and I think by all means we're going into a final map, and seeing as this is lower bracket, loser is out of the tournament. You wouldn't have it any other way as cha1n picks up a few more, and at this point now we understand, right? This map is done. dramiS already getting the gauntlets out. Like, this is we have to spend this minute and a half thinking of the final situation, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, will be Deep Embrace.
Let me take a look at the final map. Will indeed be Deep Embrace. We're getting Soarleg by dramiS versus Scalebearer by cha1n. So 2 heavy champions. That's gonna be a joy.
It's going to be a juicy matchup, especially with what's on the line. Things are going up a notch right now. And the Deep Embrace, we've seen how one-sided that map can go. And with 2 players, dramiS definitely known as being more aggressive. Sure, cha1n a little bit more slippery. But I feel like on Deep Embrace, we might be throwing a lot of that out the window.
This is one of those catch-up where you just don't want anyone to lose, do you? Like, you've got on the one hand dramiS, who is looking so confident, who put in so much effort, you know, overcoming that hand injury of his, grinding it out, fighting all of those matches back to back in bulk, like you said. And then just talking about how he's aiming for the first place, or at least his organization was. And then now he loses to razy. And then immediately afterwards, if he loses to to dramiS as well, then that would be a very untimely exit from these finals. But then on the other hand, you've got cha1n, a man who really hasn't had the best of stages, but towards the end just made a public statement saying, I know this hasn't been the best that I'm capable of, but towards the finals, I'm really going to put in the work and make sure that it does happen. So it's a bit of a heartbreaking situation that either one of these players has to leave us this early on, but that's just the hard reality of these kinds of tournaments.
It's what tournaments like this bring. People move forward and the storylines progress, but then also people get eliminated and the storyline progresses. Everyone has their own personal journey here. It's what I love about the Quake Pro League. Everyone has been going through the absolute hard graft, and many even, have been around for the 2 years that Quake Pro League has been a thing. And the amount of growth that players have been able to demonstrate from this time 2 years ago to now is rather incredible for me. But at the same time now, cha1n moves on. He's able to kind of just maybe a bit of redemption, perhaps. The comeback kid. But then dramiS returning from injury and doing very well in the closing few weeks leading up to this tournament, falling short this early. I would never have predicted this in a million years. So either way, we're getting an interesting result, but probably a heartbreaker.
I do feel like that is going to be the case. Now both players are readying up at this very moment, so we will be jumping into the concluding map in just a second. Deep Embrace indeed, we saw it right. dramiS on Sorlag versus cha1n on Skillbearer. Two very heavy champion, very big stacks, but also with a considerable amount of mobility and speed to both of them. So this could be absolute fireworks action from start to finish if the players decide to play it that way.
We always know Deep Embrace as being a momentum heavy map, and that does change a little bit when you factor in the heavies. I know the heavies don't quite have the armor they once had when they respawn now, but at the same time, what kind of momentum do we see on Deep Embrace? We see players that are fantastic at influencing the spawns. They force a spawn out, they land good damage. Already the person they've just fragged is now heavily on the back foot. If that happens to a light or something, they're in a pretty bad situation. If that happens to a heavy, at least they kind of have that extra padding to work with, and Sorlag and Scalebearer can reach their top speed quite quickly. So there is going to be this element, I think, of maybe us not seeing as much of a streak of the frags. I can expect a lot more just back and forth here.
Could very well be the case, and I think we've seen some back and forth in that previous map as well, until just cha1n ran away with the scoreline towards the end, but definitely inclined to agree with you there. This could be a very close game where we just see a constant switch of control. Player might take a whole lot of damage in one of these fights and then has to retreat, and then the other gets a lot of stack of the respawn, immediately goes in for the refrag or steals away control. That is very likely to happen when two heavies square off, all the more so on a small map like Deep Embrace. And on that note, chat, we are kicking it off with the final map in this series. The loser will be exiting the tournament, will be leaving us with the Quake Grand Finals of this stage. And we're starting it off, I believe, on dramiS, his point of view.
Able to pick up that rail and rocket, a rather typical start here on this side of the map. Unholy Trinity already good to go. But I think that rail is going to be something dramiS is focusing on. We have a little bit of time until those items spawn. If he was able to keep the rail away this early, it would have been a nice little victory as we start things off, but the trap is sprung. Who's going to get the extra damage here? So much is dished out already, and the ball rush, I don't even know if that's going to stop much. The rocket from dramiS is disgusting.
That was just beautiful. That was an absolutely gorgeous rocket from dramiS right there. He knew exactly where cha1n was headed, right? cha1n had to pick up that lower health bubble to stay alive after getting the toxic on him. And so dramiS just laid down a pinpoint pixel perfect rocket, and cha1n ate it. Quick lead for the American, 1-0. But he's unable to get any sort of consistent, like total control as a result of it. He takes away heavy, but it will be cha1n who picks up the mega.
And if there's one thing you want to have a decent amount of in this kind of matchup, it's going to be armor, and plenty of it, as cha1n has been struggling to get armor throughout the course of this map, as dramiS had a fantastic start, really able to lead that charge. Major combo, but the acid is going to tick down, and cha1n trying desperately to force a trade. He knows he was a done deal. If he could at least equalize, that would have been better than nothing. And there is Scalebearer, full speed and doing the damage.
Oh god, the rocket behind him, dramiS's rocket actually propelled cha1n into his face and caused the splatter kill.
He's an interplanetary war general. He does what he wants.
Indeed. Now gonna get in between a Scalebearer and his prey. Still, it's a relatively reserved deep embrace, right? It's been a back and forth to be sure, but 3 frags in 2 minutes. Nothing out of the ordinary, especially when you consider that these are 2 heavy, fast champions. That's a beautiful drop down from dramiS, but perhaps overextending a fair bit. Even though he caught cha1n by surprise. That bull rush is something you can never just count out, Ketchup. Just can turn around these situations in an instant.
dramiS had the right idea, using that high mobility and foregoing the LG actually to try and push forward and get some damage off of the heavy being taken, which would have set up a lot of potentials in the future. But now, although he missed that rail, he's got the weapons he wants now. Mega's going to be, they say the first item, but it looks like armor is going to be the name of the game, and for good reason. We've seen how much damage both of them are able to do, especially for dramiS, seeing as you take a heavily armored Scalebearer, that bull rush comes out, you can do very little to challenge it. Scalebearer definitely seen as one of the absolute strongest champions in the entire game right now. Incredibly meta. Whoa! Already having a bit of a crazy exchange there.
Yeah, that was that could have ended poorly for either one of these players, but it went well for both of them, so no harm, no fall, I suppose, as we're still all tied up 2-2. Both of these players, of course, know that their tournament life is on the line. They want to be so careful about picking these engagements, knowing how quickly this could steamroll if they drop a frag in the wrong position at the wrong time.
There's the bull rush, doesn't get max damage, but the second rocket's going to do it all the same. It almost seems that cha1n kind of hitting that extra damage on board and sending dramiS a lot faster. Probably not quite ready for that extra burst of speed, but good thing for dramiS, he was able to get the rocket damage all the same. The second Scalebearer gets that close, you are in a scary position. And right now the LG was really strong there from dramiS, getting himself another frag. What does that mean in the future? I mean, the heavy's about to spawn. He's in position for it. Can do a little bit of bonus denial and take that light. Even if he takes the LG damage here, he's had the last laugh, really. And he's taken that armor away from cha1n. Can cha1n even make his presence known on this item? Not at all. He has to run away.
Heavy will be the next major point of interest on the map. And both players are ready to fight for it. So the bull rush, it does end up connecting eventually, but not until cha1n took 3 rockets straight to the face.
Big decision, though, for dramiS to go for the denial. I mean, he did it last time and it worked out, but a bit of a different circumstance, right? cha1n, he's just spawned, he's got stack, he's going to have some kind of weapon to push forward, and I think that dramiS a little bit greedy with the items, perhaps.
I think so, too. That was a little uncalled for. He could have just taken away the heavy, left it at that.
Ooh,
oh,
Tri-bolt, though. That didn't tickle.
And actually, the spit connected. cha1n was not expecting that. I was not expecting that. And the health bubble he's looking for isn't there.
Obvious, no!
cha1n was just backing up, hoping for the health bubble to be there. It wasn't. He tried backing up onto it again, thinking maybe I've missed it, maybe it just respawned. It still wasn't there. And then he had to traverse the map on barely any health, leaving behind that just the trail of ticks that obviously dramiS can use to pinpoint his opponent's position.
Easiest tri-bolt in the world because of that. No way he wasn't going to get the frag from that one. And now currently dramiS sitting on double the frags that cha1n has to work with. Oh, dearie me, a bull rush that just was not the one. Whether he got stuck on the wall or whatever it was, that is gone for 25 seconds at least. And now dramiS can pressure off the spawn if you get some good damage. He has not got to worry, and I like that cha1n is going to delay that spawn just a little bit. He cannot allow himself to be that far back.
cha1n struggling to get up to heavy. A little fumble on the movement right there. I don't think you saw, or viewers might not have seen this. We were on dramiS' point of view, but yeah, that's That's all because of that fumble. cha1n messed up that little jump towards heavy ketchup, and as a result of that, he was unable to get to it in time, leaving it up for dramiS, who then used that stack to just establish this level of control.
Gets the rail and the bonus. Mega. The way things are currently going, I feel like this has to be a GG. I just don't see dramiS magically not getting extra frags here. He's hitting all of the rails. And cha1n, this is becoming a completely unobtainable task. Stuck near the acid. Rock in a hard place, to be honest with you. Now if he goes towards the health, it's obvious again. What do you do? He was dead either way.
Hope is fleeting for the Canadian right now. Lands a good rail, finds another, that's gonna be a frag. 6 kills in 2.5 minutes. Ketchup, do we believe? Not when cha1n just gives up the items like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you asked me that question 3 seconds later after he picked up both items, I'd have gone, absolutely not. Not to be too much of a pessimist here, but I just feel like dramiS has such an impressive lead. We have to factor in how much stack he's gonna spawn with. Yes, he concedes this here, but now spawning, rocket launcher in hand, ability, loads of armor. I mean, he's laughing.
cha1n, these little fumbles, the delay from getting over to the heavy now. Then earlier missing out on the item entirely. That's... It all adds up, Ketchup. Those little mistakes, they are opportunities that dramiS will seize and has been doing so for these past 8 minutes. And look at that, dramiS has just switched to a much more passive playstyle, burning around 20 seconds of time by just sitting over on the shotgun spawn.
At this point, not 100% sure what cha1n's actually doing. You know, the Mega still isn't up for a good 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Almost felt like dramiS looked at that and went, okay, thanks.
And now dramiS has picked up heavy as well, has got a sizable stack advantage. He knows he doesn't have to chase anything, can just sit on back, land rails, use LG to keep his opponent at bay. And with this little time left, I just don't think it's a possibility anymore that cha1n can burn through that starting stack that Swordike will have. He might find himself 1 frag, maybe 2, but not with shots like that. I think that's what, 4 rails in a row that cha1n has missed. Finally connects one, but this is too little, too late. It would be a miracle.
Seemed a little bit like a last laugh there, I think.
Yeah.
The fact that he got through the health and almost 3 times in a row going into the double health bubble situation almost got him killed. But in that instance, able to stop, get the bull rush, the rail. Not this time. It does seem like dramiS is the one that's going to be laughing though, because 30 seconds to go and 4 frags. That ain't happening. As dramiS gets the victory on cha1n, our last matchup of today's B stream. And I think we did end with a rather close one. Bit of a strange fight there, not quite able to get the damage, but I just think that it doesn't matter anymore. This victory is already guaranteed. And cha1n, the GGs, the good luck, the mutual respect between the two of them. Unfortunately for cha1n, this is where his journey tonight and this weekend comes to a close. But dramiS continues. Now, he's still alive, and we'll see if he can pull off this real comeback story.
I was hoping to see more of cha1n. But I just don't think he was able to turn around the stage fast enough, right? You mentioned it before we started the series. There was a time where cha1n was number 2 NA, or in all of the Americas rather, just beating everyone except for Rafa, looking so powerful, getting really far into those tournaments, but then that kind of fell off again, wasn't able to put in the hours or the dedication that he needed to continue to operate at that top level, and then I just don't think he was able to get into the right shape moving into these finals. So that will be cha1n losing first to base, and now losing to Maxter as well. Also, speaking of base, it's come to my attention that base took down Maxter 2-0 on the main stream, on the A stream, which we will be jumping back to in a short moment, right, Ketchup?
Correct, and it's funny you should mention it because, like I said, this is our final match of the B stream today, so thank you all so much for tuning in. It's been a fun day, and there's a little bit more action left to go on the main Quake stream as well. So thanks for watching. We'll see you here tomorrow, but for the rest of the night, jump over to Quake main. We'll see you there.